One, it's that time of year again. The kids are going back to school and everybody's talking about it on Facebook. You've got the beginning of the year pictures and all that stuff. And do you still do that as a homeschooler? I mean, you're walking through Walmart or Target and you're seeing all the back to school gear and stuff. Do you geek out over that? I do a little bit. But if you're road schooling, you might be sitting in the campground looking at your kid in their pajamas, watching them do math and going, that's not really my season. And so this episode's for you, whether you're the mom that dresses them all up and does the back to school picture or not. We're going to do a not back to school episode, just for all of you that may not be doing it the same way, RV style. So we've got littles today, middles. Well, we've got their moms. We don't have the littles and middles. And high schoolers are represented in this group, 4 different families, and we all do things a little bit differently, right? So that's the beautiful part. We're going to talk curriculum, we're going to talk community, and how we actually do it on the road. So I'm Jennifer. This is Learn to RV, the podcast. Thanks for joining us. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the podcast. So we have Kristina Bram. She's traveling with the Brams. You and Joel actually helped me build Learn to RV, the course. So there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that you do with Learn to RV all across the board. And I just want you to take a second and introduce yourself and your family.
Yeah, definitely. So we have 3 kiddos. We have a 13-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 10-year-old. So we kind of hit that middles age. We have our first teenager, which is such a fun, interesting, weird, like now being a teenager mom, like it makes me feel old. I don't know. It's so weird. But we're not in high school yet. This year we're going 8th, 7th, 5th. So we do still technically count grades because I have a teaching degree. And so I have a hard time kind of getting out of that. I've actually talked to a lot of people over the years. So those of us who have taught to get out of that when you road school. But yeah, so we have been on the road for 5 years. Our kids now, our 2 youngest did go to school before COVID, but for the most part, they have been homeschooled and now road schooled for 5 years. So
Well, that's awesome. And do you think that your teaching background impacts how you teach the kids?
I think it makes me really judgy about curriculum. I think in a way, I'm so particular, which has actually caused us some issues. So I've actually had to unlearn some things because homeschooling and road schooling is not public schooling. And I taught younger ages. I have an early childhood education degree, which was great when they were little. So now it's a whole new ball game getting into these older ages with things that I don't remember ever even learning in school. So that's been really, really interesting. But I think a lot of it was actually unlearning as someone with a background in the public education, having to unlearn that there are things that you don't have to do. You don't have to follow rules, which is so counterintuitive to everything that I feel like I was taught early on.
There's an actual homeschooling term for that. It's called deschooling, and it's all mindset and methodology to actually take a step back and relearn how to teach your kids that it doesn't have to be the same way. Rhea Gibson is from the Wandering Rocks family, and she has 4 littles. So that makes her very different. And there's really something special about Rhea that I would like to point out. So she's from a family where they've actually adopted children and now they travel on the road. They have some of their own biological children. And there's a whole episode where I interview her from the Community Spotlight series that you'll have to go back and watch to hear that side of the story. But what ages are your kids and how do you think that makes it different for you on the road with littles?
So we have a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, and an almost 7-year-old. And so they're so young that we can't even plan, I feel like a whole year because they change so quickly and so much. So I have a plan to start this year, but we definitely pivot quickly if we need to. So we've been on the road for almost 2 years now. And we started, our youngest was 3 months old. This is the first year that I'll technically have to enroll them. They were not 6. My oldest 2 were not 6 years old last September. But we've been homeschooling since preschool. So I've done 3 years now of homeschooling with my oldest and 2 with my other one, and my 4-year-old now. I'm bringing him on board and he's just going right along with. So he's ready and we're doing it.
Well, and I think that's the beauty of this lifestyle, right? It doesn't matter how old your kids are necessarily. When we launched, Judah was 15 months old. So he was little. And so we started with 6 kids. So I've been in your shoes. I'm just not there anymore because he's now the youngest of 7 kids and he is 14 years old. So, we're starting where I only have high schoolers this year, which is wild to me. But talking about other high schoolers, we've got Ashliy, and you might recognize her. She and Jake came on as well not too long ago, Wander About RV Life, and she's got 2 kids that are traveling with her. And your dynamic's a little bit different too, because you're a little bit more stationary right now. So tell me what that looks like going into this year for road schooling.
So my oldest is going to be 14 tomorrow. And then my youngest is 8. So they're going into 9th grade and 3rd grade. And we've been homeschooling them since COVID. So this is year 7 of homeschooling. My oldest went kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade in regular school. My youngest has never been to regular school and he would not last there at all. And one time my youngest asked my oldest, what's school like? And he's like, well, there's bars on the windows and you have to wear a uniform and you can't go outside. And he was just like, that sounds like jail. He's like, yep. And they never want to go back to regular school.
Well, and I mean, that depends on where you live. I mean, that was when we moved to California, when Frank was still active duty, when Ariana was 7 or 8. That was why I didn't enroll her in school there, because there was razor wire around the top of the schools for grade school. And I was just like, yeah, nope. I was like, we can do this for a couple of years or 18 months or however long we were going to be there. And we were military, so moving around was part of that. But you're stationary, which is a little bit different too. So you have different resources available to you than maybe somebody else has. But we'll get into that here in just a little bit. I want to talk about a mindset shift. When Frank and I started going on the road in 2013, I always tell people for us, it was like leveling up because we'd always homeschooled all of the kids. So for those of you that have had kids in school, so I guess this would be Ashliy and Kristina, what do you think was the hardest pivot for you personally?
So ours wasn't really a hard pivot. Going into regular school, we were kind of all over the place. We were just purchasing a house. So we lived in an apartment in Phoenix. So my son was enrolled at a school there. And then we bought our house and it just happened to be like 40 minutes away. So he had to transfer to another school. And then we sold our house and then we moved to my grandparents in Las Cruces for a little bit. And their school started 2 weeks earlier than all the other schools. So he went to that school for like 2 weeks. And then we moved to Vegas and then he started the school there. So every like part, it's been a different school. So he's made like small connections with friends, but they were never anything that was like holding him there. Like he was just like, oh, I don't have to go in here anymore. Okay, bye. Like
That's
it didn't
interesting.
matter to him.
Yeah. But you, Kristina, your oldest was in regular school.
She was. So both my girls, so my older 2, they went to kindergarten. JoJo was in 1st grade when COVID hit, which, by the way, Ashliy, when you said COVID was 7 years ago, my mind was like, can you guys believe that? Like, it just doesn't feel like, it feels like it was yesterday. Like, I just can't. It's so bananas. The timeline that we live in, like, I feel like it's not what it is. But anyway, so for us, it was so interesting. So my girls went to school. You guys are going to laugh at this, but I was actually the PTA president for a year when my daughter was in 1st grade. I know, Jennifer,
I feel like that tracks. I'm
that
just
checks.
saying.
I know people who know me are going to be like, it's about right. I just can't help myself. And so for us, it was like COVID happened, the whole like digital schooling. I had my kindergarten and 1st grader sitting in front of a screen watching other people teach. We were in Phoenix too, Ashliy, and they actually brought the kids back to school earlier than a lot of states. And we couldn't put our girls back because I was helping care for my elderly grandparents at the time. And so we just didn't know what we didn't know. And so we kept them home. So they were watching their teacher for 6 hours a day teach the kids in the classroom. And it was they're kindergartners and 1st graders. Like, and again, with the teaching background, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Like they're supposed to be hands-on and cutting and learning and physically moving around and they're staring at a screen. So for us, like even as the PTA president, we like just pulled out. And so at the point that we went home, my husband was working digitally. That was the thing for us to even get on the road was like, okay, we went down a path because this is just what you do. You buy a house, you put your kids in school, you have soccer practice, you check all the boxes in life, right? And so COVID really let us like disconnect from the matrix. And so for us, that included school. And so when we
Mhm.
homeschooled, it was like, well, why couldn't we road school? Why couldn't we go on the road and just take the show down the road? Why not? I think I wouldn't say it was hard as much as it was just like a total disconnect from what we always thought was supposed to be done. And so at the point we rewrote our whole story, everything was off the table. At that point, it was like, well, we can literally do whatever we want. The rules don't matter anymore. Um, and so that's kind of how we took the road schooling journey. But again, it was that unlearning process for us.
Yeah. I mean, that is a real thing, having to unlearn that for sure. So we've all talked about having mid kids on the road, and they're so engaged, right? I mean, in some ways, till they get to a certain point, they're willing to go on that hike. They're willing to go to the pool. They're willing to go make friends at the playground. But let's talk littles for a minute, because I remember feeling like that was a lot, right? At first. I look back at that now and I think, oh, it was so much easier then. And so Rhea probably doesn't feel that way yet. But I'm now at a point where I have to drag them out of bed by 11 o'clock in the morning to get them just functioning for the day. Where when they were little, yes, it was an early morning, but I could go down to the park and meet other moms, and they didn't care if they made real connections. We could go to a playground and fill that bucket, so to speak. So, Rhea, what do you think is the hardest part about having littles on the road? I know what it was like back then, but it's different now too, because after COVID, I think people aren't nearly as friendly as they used to be.
Right. It's it's funny how much we're talking about COVID, but it did really impact our decision to homeschool too. We drive by a playground and they say my friends are there because there's little humans that are the same height as them. So of course they're their friends. So that is great. We have made some connections and so they do miss their friends. Prior to going on the road, we didn't really know anybody that homeschooled, and we had already chosen to homeschool, whether we were stationary or in a house or in a boat, whatever. We knew we were going to homeschool, but they didn't know any other homeschooled children. So they were, excited to ride the bus and get new backpacks and all these things that are like public school things. So it's been really almost more helpful running in and I pointed out, I'm like, our friends aren't out because they're doing their reading, or I know that they do a field trip today, or just knowing that these other families are homeschooling, I think it just kind of normalizes it a lot for us. And so that's been really great.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, so I actually was that mom that would, and Christina's going to laugh at me, but if there wasn't a homeschool group, I was going to start a park day because I just wanted that connection with those other families. And then I was going to go to Facebook and I was going to put a post out there and I was going to join all the local community groups and say, hey, who wants to go bowling on the third Friday of every month? And so we would start that way. And I think as a homeschooler, you just start seeking connection. And this was long before we hit the road. This was my kid needs friends. And so when they were really little, we would do story time. Even when they were like we were traveling, we would do story time at different libraries across the country because Judah was like 2 and Aaron was like 4. And so it was an easy dynamic to take them. And the other kids actually would go fill their bucket by going and reading books that we couldn't borrow because we weren't in a town that was, and Libby wasn't a thing back then. And so it's because 2013 was a very long time ago, guys, just say it. But so Rio, for you, what does your normal school day look like?
It always changes. My personality is to like, okay, we're gonna do our work and then we can go outside and we can go play. But I'm finding it kind of depends on our schedule and who else is around us. Sometimes they just need to get out first. We have very early mornings here. That's the only thing I'm looking forward to about the teenage years is them sleeping just a little bit later. But so it kind of depends. If it's a rainy day, we do it inside kind of first thing and try and make plans. My husband works until 4 or 5 o'clock, and sometimes we do a lot of our reading, like one-on-one time, in the evenings. So especially like in the summer when it gets darker earlier and they still are, awake and ready to go and do stuff, we'll kind of save some of that for later. So it changes.
Yeah.
This year we're doing like a curriculum together. So my 4 and 6 year olds will all do it together. Um, and we'll see how that goes. I mean, language arts are all in a different place with that, but I'm excited to like kind of get them all together. And I think that's going to kind of feed each other. You know, the 4-year-old's going to want to sit there and participate with the older kids, and the older kids like being the big brother and big sister. So I'm excited for that. I'm very optimistic for this year.
That's exciting. That worked really well for me teaching them together until the younger one started reading better than the older one, and then that didn't go so well. That was angry children over that. So, because I had a math kid at the top and then a reading kid at the bottom, you have to know your kids' learning styles too. What would you say, like practical encouragement, just a tip for families with littles that are traveling?
I think whether you're traveling or not, homeschooling in general, people try to make it public school at home, and they think it's 7 curriculums and or subjects and sitting at the desk all day long. That's not the case. Even, 15 to 30 minutes, especially with young kids, like 15 to 30 minutes working on something together, and they learn so quickly and it changes and just leaps and bounds. It amazes me what they pick up on. So,
Well, and there's so much education in play. Like
mhm,
there's so much education in play,
yep.
especially at that age.
Yeah. So don't overwhelm yourself. I think when you're first starting out, don't overwhelm yourself and think you have to check off 100 boxes and the perfect schedule. You got to kind of work with them. And as much as you want to like lead and plan and be in charge, you have to be able to kind of go with the flow and go learn with them.
With 7 kids, my advice to moms all the time, no matter what age they are, when they're little, that under year old, I say, don't blink because that first year goes by so fast. And
Yep.
I love that first year every time. And, after I had the first one, there's 5 years between my oldest and my second. So I didn't plan to have another one. And then somewhere between the equation, God had a sense of humor because I wanted one and Frank wanted 6, and we have 7. But at the same time, you have to, especially with littles, do things differently for them, whether that's a park day, whether that's going to the pool, whether that's just getting out for a short hike. It doesn't have to be fancy, whatever that looks like. All right, let's go on to the middles. Let's go 4th through 8th grade. We'll call those middles. This is where I think things get a little more interesting. They start having some real opinions, real friendships start forming, and they're the kind of friendships that they start missing. And on the road, that can be challenging. And then academic content can start mattering more to them, like what they like to do versus what they don't like to do. So, do you think either one of like Ashliy or Kristina, do you think your curriculum got more structured as the kids got old?
I think for us, it changed. First of all, the thing I would want to say is if a curriculum, you buy it and you try it and it's terrible or school is a fight, ditch it. I don't care if you are 2 months in, you are 6 weeks in, you are 5 months in, it does not matter. If
Even
school
if
is
you
a
spent
fight,
$1,000 on it,
it
just
is
ditch it because it's
not
not worth
worth
it.
your peace. Yes, we have done the same thing, Jennifer. So I always say like we're constantly changing. I know I joked about being judgy about curriculum, but a lot of it came down to like the learning style and then the transition of when we're with friends versus not with friends. What is something that we can do all the time that works for all my different learners? And so I would say we have gotten more structured because they've needed more structure because of their opinions and the way that they can handle the variability without it turning into a fight. Because as they get more opinionated and as they lose the glimmer of school is fun, not that they don't think it's fun, but they think it's different, right? It's not the same as when we're doing a lot of more hands-on. I have one who doesn't like math. I have one who doesn't like reading, and every day they leave that to the last minute. So we've had to have creative ways to build that structure and change curriculums in different seasons.
Yeah, we noticed from when it went from like kindergarten, first grade, second grade would get a little bit like more difficult. And then this year, my youngest is going into third grade. And I took a sneak peek at like what he would be learning. And it jumps a little bit, but the curriculum we use, it tries to keep it fun. It still has music in there. It has like virtual like teachers that will like sing songs to help you remember certain things that like you may be tested on later. So it's very interactive and the kids really enjoy that coming from another program that we used for like 3 years. And it got to the point they were like, no, I don't want this anymore. I want something different. So we're
Yeah.
glad we found this new one.
Well, and I mean, 2 years ago when the business took off for us, we actually went back to a more structured curriculum online for the kids, and they hate it. And so this year, I finally sat down. So I have dyslexic kids. 3 out of 7 of my kids have some form of dyslexia. So I was fortunate. I met a guy named Russell Van Brocklin, and he has called something called dyslexia classes. And I'm going to show you. So he actually created a story for each one of them. And so he made them, they each their own curriculum. Aaron, who's 16 and hates to read, has a clone identity field manual. So this is all Clone Wars specific. So it's the only thing I can get him to read. Judah, on the other hand, has a totally different dynamic. And the stories are just printed stories. And you can't see them unless I do this. But the reality is that there's questions, but then his assignments are standing orders. So it's what he would be given if he was in the Clone Wars. Everything about it is detailed around what he's been given. And I would say we're more unschooly than we're not. And if you don't know what an unschooler is, it doesn't mean what everybody says it means. It doesn't mean you don't do school. It means it's child-led learning, which means that they get to have a voice in what they're choosing. As the kids have gotten older, we've gone more of that. We still do a math program, and obviously we still do some kind of English program and writing. And then everything else we get from all the places we go. We journal. And with dyslexic kids, I do something like count reading sometimes as an audiobook. And I don't know if you guys do that, but I mean, this is where we see where families white knuckle it when they're talking about middle schoolers pushing back or, kids pushing back on curriculum and absolutely hating homeschooling. Our goal is not to be responsible for every gap. There's something out there that we can help to teach them something. So what would you say your best piece of advice is for a mom that's like in the thick of it, ready to pull her hair out right now?
Just like Kristina said, if the homeschool program is not working, just switch. It's going to save you so much time. We were struggling so much with social studies because everything else with the old program would be very in depth and it would have videos and all this fun stuff with it. And then it'd get to social studies and be like, here's 9 pages, read it and take a test. So
I mean, that doesn't work for me either. So
no, I wouldn't read it either. So with our new one, it's super interactive. There's songs, games, like all that fun stuff. So the kids really enjoy their new program that they're using. There's so many out there, and most of them have free trials or like discounted trials that you can try for like a month. Try them all and see what one works best for you.
well,
It's
and
going to
what
save you
works
so much time.
and what works for one kid might not work for another, and be okay with that too. Each kid's learning styles is so important to think about when you do that. All right, so let's go into high school because this is where I live right now. I've got 2 high school students, 1 gap year student, meaning that she's graduated and still living at home. I want to hear where you guys are at, because, it's coming for everybody. And I didn't expect to be at this stage already. Like, I don't know. I don't think any of us does. But high school didn't change anything for me. Does this count for college? That sort of thing. I have encouraged my kids to take college courses at the same time they're in high school. However, with 2 dyslexic boys, that's probably not happening. My goal is to just keep them there right now. And you're going into high school, so that's a whole new level for you and friendships and that sort of thing. But my gap year kid is a good example. We didn't force the decision, wherever she was going after high school. We're just keeping traveling. And with the business, she's just working alongside us. Will anything change this year with your son being in high school, do you think?
Think anything's really going to change with it. He's already had like his real life experience where he last year he had a job at like the BFW and stuff. So he's gotten like his like learning of what the real life is kind of going to be eventually.
Right.
Now, since we're no longer in Pahrump, we're in Vegas now, nowhere near VFW. He can't do like that working, but like he's literally hung on to all his money. So he's not just out there spending it like he would have years ago. He's saving up. He said he wants to get a van when he turns 16 so he can follow us around, but also have his own space.
That's
so,
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so let's dive into curriculum. We already know Kristina's going to be judgy about it. She told us already. But let's talk curriculum for a second, because I mean, I've done all of it, right? I started out as a Konos mom. Is any one of you old enough to know what that means?
What, Mom?
Yeah, no, I just aged myself drastically. So Konos, Konos, was a unit study program that was built by a woman named Jessica Halsey. And she had this beautiful unit study curriculum that was just 3 volumes. Volumes. They were like, I don't know, 5 inches. They were like phone book thick. And so you went through each one, but you studied all sorts of things. So, like when you studied bees, you studied systems. When you studied the ear canal, we built an ear canal under my kitchen table when the kids were little. It was very cool. There was a lot of hands on notebooking type, like, they knew it by building it out of whatever they had to build it out of. And so each kid did it differently. When we went on the road, I took my 3 volumes and I brought them with me, but it was also very library dependent. And that was hard. And a lot of the books in the library were now out of print library books. And after COVID, they were almost impossible to find after they were all weeded out a third and fourth and fifth time. So the unit study side of what we did kind of evolved into unschooling for me. It wasn't that we stopped writing, we started journaling. We started buying a notebook and putting things in a notebook for the kids as we traveled. And so what was neat about that is we would go to, let's just say, a national park. Hezekiah might pick that book up and draw you a spider from the park, where Micah might show you the trail, where Justin might show you something else, and Gus might sit down and show you the painted picture that she drew. And she might take a picture of that and put it in that notebook. And so it was different for each one of the kids. Going back through those journals, we just did it a couple months ago when we were in Texas. You see their travels through their eyes. And I think that's so important when you're talking road schooling, because each one of their kids had a different takeaway. Now, that being said, I don't use a ton of structured curriculum. Well, we were using IXL for math and English. They've figured out how to cheat their way through that. So that's ending this year. And so we're going back to math, and we're going to use Life of Fred again, which I picked up some of our Life of Fred books. Do you know what Life of Fred is? One of you does. I'm so excited. I don't
We
feel
got
as
them at a
old.
Goodwill once. We found a whole bunch
Yes.
of them at a Goodwill for super cheap.
So, yeah, I don't want to tell you how much I paid for them. But Life of Fred is a storybook, but it's math. And so by the time they finish Life of Fred, they actually have some college level math in them, because it's just done so well that you're learning about Fred, and he's 3 feet tall and he lives under this desk, and there's a whole story. So my kids that hate math will read it. Now, again, this has to be for the right child.
Mhm.
But we've tried all the other ones too. What kind of curriculum do you love?
So I've been using The Good and the Beautiful.
That's a great curriculum, though.
Yeah, it's, I love the language arts. We are pivoting this year and we're changing it up, but we've gone through, preschool, the 4K, whatever, kindergarten prep, kindergarten and first grade. And now we have, so my daughter, my oldest one, who's almost 7, I mean, she's probably like second grade as far as like language arts, and then like first grade math. I got 2 first graders. I don't know. I don't like to use the grades like you were talking about. You can't get away from it. But she's blended. First kindergarten or first and second, and they're all blended. So we use that, and I did like it. And I think it's after a few years, especially my oldest, I think it's maybe kind of boring. And so I just try to switch it up. So we're moving to math with confidence for math. And then we're using Not Consumed for, it's got like a first grade curriculum. And this is where I'm doing it with all of them, not the language arts part, but it's animals and geography. And there's not a lot of writing in there. So my 4-year-old, he can write his name, and there's a couple things you got to count or write a couple things, but it's not much there. So I am still sticking with, I had a science curriculum for The Good and the Beautiful. And that's kind of fun. We've read a couple of the stories and maybe done one of the science experiments. So we're going to keep going with that. And national park book, we were in Tennessee and we went through the Great Smoky Mountains. So I bought the books there, and I'm going to implement that in when they need something different, and you walk through those books. So That's what we're using this year. So we're excited.
Well, and you could totally change it up if you need to. Like
I
that's the
am
beautiful part.
prepared to do that because, like you were saying, I won't say substantial amount of money, but with the 3 of them and having the multiple curriculums, and I added in like a little Bible study in there, but I'm not going to force it. I had a kindergarten, the Good and the Beautiful kindergarten math, and we really like kind of had to plug through that. And I don't know if it was me or them. And finally, I just looked at it and I'm like, it's okay to put this away and walk away from it. And I did. Like, I love their language arts. The kids are doing great with reading. And it's worked for us, but that math, it didn't work for us. So
Yeah, we did math UC one year back when we were still in a house, and that worked great for like 2 of my kids, and the other ones were like ready to pull their hair out. It was fine for some and not for others. And, you just got to kind of pick it up and move on and make a decision on what that works for you. When you have a bigger family, I think that's one of the things that becomes a challenge. I mean, with 4 kids, with 7 kids, you're looking at price points that are very different. We invested years ago and they don't have it like this anymore. They're called notebookingpages.com, and it still exists today, but they're just printable notebooking pages. So you can get a blank one, free notebooking pages that are just blank. Notebookingpages.com is just a resource where they're already people like in history or stuff like that. So when we're going somewhere on the road, I'll always print one of those off and say, hey, guess what's in your notebook this week? And so they can see that it's coming, but it's something that they can do it however they want to do it as long as they're writing. So they can write down facts, they can write down a story. I don't care if it's copy work or it's something, as long as they're actually participating with it. And that's the other side of it, right? Is if you've got a curriculum and you're not using it, then it doesn't matter if you've got a curriculum at all.
if it doesn't work for them, it still can kind of trickle down. And my kids are all very different. So I doubt the same curriculum is going to work for all of them.
And that's the beauty of homeschooling too, is that, you can tailor to each one of your kids and how they learn. So, and it's a great time to get a sale right now. Most companies are starting to run their back to school sales if they haven't even started. Most of them have started them a couple weeks ago. So what about you, Kristina? What do you say for curriculum? What do you think has worked for you?
So when we first got on the road, I thought it would be the funnest idea to write curriculum as I went based on where we were and what we were doing. So I would actually write like a unit, like if we were in a state. I know, don't laugh at me. If I was in a state, I would be like, okay, what are the birds we can learn about here? And what are the, like a science-based thing? And I bit off a lot more than I could chew. And it was fine for a hot minute. And then it became too much work for me. We shuffled through that for a while. And then we ended
How
up
many
being in
printers
Florida.
did you burn through?
How many what?
Printers did you burn through doing that?
So just one, actually, until it fell off on move day and it didn't ever recover. But we did that HP Instant Ink thing, which was we're actually really good for printing our own stuff. Was the most cost effective way that we found to print. But yes, so many papers, because everything was fun in a project and it was cute. I love the idea. And we did the junior ranger badges at all the national park sites. Like we totally did the whole road schooling thing where we learned on site a lot. That worked great because when we got on the road, they were 1st, 3rd, 4th grade. And so it was great. The hands-on was lovely. We were all up for the adventure. We were unlearning school, which is what everyone said we had to do. And I loved it. It lasted about a year. Then after that, we tried a couple different things. Never really worked. Like we picked and choose pieces of curriculum. We got to a point where school was a fight, like literal guys. And I say this so that other people don't feel bad. Knockdown, drag out, screaming at me, screaming at that. Like it was bad. And that was when we were like, okay, we're not going to do anything for a hot minute. We're going to figure this out. Then we found Gather Round. Basically, if you've never done Gather Round, it is a centralized teacher curriculum. So you all gather together, you read from the teacher book, and then everyone has an age-based book based on the central theme. So what got us the buy-in from the kids on that one was that they got to each pick a unit. So 1 month, a kid would pick it the next month and the next month. So they got the buy-in, and that theme-based learning was really good for my kids. We're all a little neurodivergent at my house. And so the hyperfixation on one topic was actually really good for everybody. We did that for 2.5 years. I loved it. It got rid of our fights. So I was like super excited about that. We added in math. My youngest loves math. So he was actually doing the same math as my girls for those 2 years because he didn't love to read, but he loved math. So I still used my own curriculum. So I would teach them my own things and whatever. So then last year, the kids came to me, all three of them, and were like, we want online school. And I was
I
like,
think you had a mutiny at that rate.
they did. Oh yeah, no, they ganged up on me. They've actually written me books with like lists of what they want. Like they wanted Minecraft, and they were like, "Here are the 10 reasons," with like a 5-page book about what. I'm like, that was a school lesson. Win. But anyway, they came to me. They're like, "We want online school. All of our friends have online school. They can do it at their own pace." And I was really hesitant because Gather Round had been like, "This is working." And I didn't want to deviate from what was working because I was so afraid of going back to those like screaming fights. Like it was so much chaos in my home that I was like, this brought us peace, like let's just stick with it. But also at the same time, my own business, like I started working almost full time at the time. And so we were like, okay, we'll give it a try. So we ended up this last February starting Me Academy. So online based, they all have videos. You can kind of pick and choose at your own pace. One of the things I do love about it is some people like are really good about like Monday through Thursday we do school and then Friday we take off. I am chaos. I'm like on Tuesday we all want to go somewhere. Sure, off school. And I like that Mia Academy lets me just like click a button and take a day off and then it readjusts all their assignments. That works really well for us because the kids are doing really well. They're really thriving. The only thing that I'm struggling with a little bit is the math is not working for one of them. So we're gonna have to coming year try to decide if we want to stick with Me Academy for everybody. We actually just finished last week, and so next year starts. We're taking 6 weeks off, and then next year we'll start in 6 weeks. So we're taking a 6 week summer, and that's another thing I love about homeschool. Right, like I can literally do whatever I want. So
Right.
life
Well,
is
and
a
I
little
think that's
crazy.
important.
Yeah. So I think we're going to do Me Academy again. It's worked for us. We've really liked it. All the ones I researched, like you said, IXL, Excelis, like there's pros and cons to every single one. When I looked at my learners, we said, okay, I think Me Academy is the one that would work best for us. And that's where we've landed right now.
That's awesome. And Ashliy, do you use Me Academy too, or is it something different?
Nope, we also use Mia Academy, and then my oldest will be using Mia Prep this year.
And what's the difference between Me Academy and then Mia Prep? Can you
So
explain that?
Mia Prep is specifically for 7th through 12th grade. So Mia Academy runs from like pre-K to 8th grade, but with the prep you can do 7th and 8th if you wanted to do that. It's just a little bit more advanced, but the kids love that they can do introduction to computer programming. They can learn Spanish. They can pick and choose what items they want on there. But I noticed you both said they were kind of having issues like with math. One thing that worked with my kids, there's another program, I think it's free, but it's called Cons Academy.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's a math game.
That's
So it's like
that's
a
actually
video
what I
game.
just looked up. So I was
Yeah.
gonna
And it's a video game, and you're running around and you get to like a dragon, and to slay the dragon you have to complete the math problem. And you can select the age that your child is, so that way if it's a younger child it's going to be like addition and like sometimes division if they're doing like really well with it, and like multiplication. But then if they're older it's going to be a little bit harder, and you can do battles with there. And then if you have friends that also have it, you can battle them together, and you're kind of going back and forth like a team. Like it's super fun.
Yeah.
Sounds fun.
Yeah. It is fun. It's a gamifying, education one day at a time. All right. Well, let's jump into schoolroom on wheels because, we all decided to take this on the road. I know that my kids have more screen time now than they ever had, especially with travel days. We also do outschool. My boys have one class on our school each. They take a Dungeons and Dragons class, which is once a week, which is very structured because it's the same time every week with a teacher. And so Thursdays and Fridays are now not my own because of that. Rhea, do you let your littles have screen time? And if so, how much?
They have my three oldest, they have a tablet. They each have tablets and we use them in the car. We have them pretty locked down. So it's Khan Academy. We have that app and we have it set to like preschool or 5-year-old, and they can do drawing on there and math and videos, and they're like PBS, like real videos of like grasshoppers and learn about snakes. And so they have that and PBS Kids and videos, PBS Kids games. That's really what they have on their tablets. They're not interested in them when they're at home, really. Just mainly in the car, we use it for travel days. So they do get a little bit, but they didn't touch them for like 2 months. As far as TV, we try and keep, if we're watching stuff together or during the morning, like we're kind of been on summer break. Like I do like to say I homeschool all year round, but I try and keep the curriculum within a school year because we do tend to come home to our hometown for the summer and we have a lot to do here. So it's nice not to have that break. But if we're talking about something and we're out fishing, and we're taking a break and we're at home and then we watch, like, oh, well, what was that fish we were talking about? And we'll go look up the video or something like that. So they do a little bit. I mean, we do watch TV, and then they just, my 6-year-old, we got him a Nintendo, like a Nintendo that's preloaded with the original Nintendo games. So he's playing like Mario Brothers for the first time. And so they do a little bit of that, but they're still not super interested in video games. I mean, they're pretty little. The Mia Academy, I was this close to signing them up, and I decided to try a different curriculum before getting them on screen time for school because I feel like I'm just putting that tool in my pocket. And when they're just kind of burned out, like I love books. I want a pen or pencil and a notebook and books. And so I'm holding on to that too. I mean, they're just really starting.
Yeah.
So I'm holding off on any online school yet. Maybe they'll probably gang up and approach me like Kristina's dad.
Well, one online tool that I was introduced to when Aaron was really little, and it's still out there. It's called Teach Your Monster to Read. And it was so funny. So my friend Stephanie used to sell Usborne books. Anyways, once a year it went on sale for free. And so I still have that free version that was a full version, and they do it once a year. But it's a British voice actor that does all of it. And so Aaron was like 4.5 when we learned about this. And so I would put it on my phone, hand him my phone, let him do it in the car, whatever. But when he learned to read, he only read in a British accent.
That's so cute.
He's better now. He's 16. But, for the first 5 years of his life, when he read something, he turned British. He sounded like Kipper. And so it was a lot of fun.
That's funny.
All
I'll
right.
have to look at that.
Yeah. So this one's kind of a lightning round. Ready? So one curriculum you'd never go back to. Oh, there's no bad ones.
Writing my
You
own.
mean like
Which one?
a program?
Yeah.
Time for learning.
Oh.
That didn't fit for your kids. Yeah, it didn't fit for
No.
mine either. We tried that one. So we tried that one before IXL. It wasn't a good fit for us either.
Yeah, we did it for 2 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So how about this one? One thing you packed for school that you never actually used? Nothing. I'm the only one that has books that we haven't read yet.
Okay, I'll take this one. When over the last couple of years, like Walmart, Target, the school year hits and they have the $1 section, $3 section, and like they have great deals and great things. I'm like, oh, I could use this. I could use this. I could use that. And then all it becomes is like a big, huge responsibility of things to use, like little flip through things of sight words and math flashcards. And this year I packed it all up and I put it in my mom's attic because I just have a book and it's everything's in there that I need. I don't need to add something else because the kids don't think the math flashcards are fun. I don't know what it is, but I've gotten rid of all those little extra things that you think are super cute as the teacher, as the parent buying them. They're not. If you buy a curriculum, just use it. And if you think you need something, then go find that one thing you need. Don't go to the aisle and browse.
All right. Last one, Kristina. You ready? Favorite classroom you've ever had on the road, but it's got to be a place, not a curriculum.
We actually bought a library card when we were in one place. We were going to be there for like 4 months in the same area, moving around. We bought a library card. We go do school there. And we'd switch up doing it there or outside of a Starbucks. We would sit outside of Starbucks and do school. So does that count?
Love that. Yeah, no, I think it counts no matter where you are. And I think it's that beauty of what works for you may not work for Ashliy, may not work for Rhea, may not work for us. But I think that it gives permission to everybody out there that's thinking that, oh, I'm not doing enough. My kids aren't learning enough. They are. You just don't realize it. And sometimes they won't realize it until they're adults. All right. I want to go around one more time because you guys have been amazing. But what do you want a mom to hear that's staring at a back to school season that's feeling like she's doing wrong because her kid isn't walking into a classroom this week or next week? What would you say to them?
I think you, as a parent, are the best teacher for your child because you know and can change. It's to cater to exactly what your child needs. And the public school isn't going to do that. And there might be a lot of built in friends at school and things that they may have access to, but once you're in the homeschool community and you think like a homeschooling mom, that stuff is right at your fingertips too. It really is.
So, since we're stationary right now and my kids really haven't done like the go to school in like 7 years, we have joined a bunch of homeschooling groups that do activities. So every like Tuesday, there's bowling at the local bowling alley for homeschool kids for like $5.
And
There's
it's
Nerf
so
wars
cool.
every month, splash pads, and it's always the same kids that are all going to it. So they have these additional friends, and we've been in and out of Vegas for the last 5 years. So like there's kids that they met 5 years ago that remember oh, you're that traveling family. And they're so excited to see them again. And it's just like when you travel around to different events. You see some of the same people, and sometimes you meet new people, and then you get excited when you see those people again.
I love that. And I guess the only thing that I would say is the old adage, comparison is the thief of joy. I think all of us do it differently, and don't look at someone else's, their perfect final product that they show you or tell you, and compare it to your backstage. It's not the same thing. Most people put their best foot forward on social media or when they meet you at the park. And just remember, we're all doing the best we can. We all love our kids and want to teach them. We all have the same goals. We're just going to go about it differently. And I think just give yourself grace and remember that you're doing the best you can. And as long as your kids are thriving, then you're doing a great job.
That's awesome. Thank you guys. All right. So before I let any one of you go, you all have your own channels. So I would love for you to talk about kind of how people can find you.
So I'm Ashliy. I'm Wonder About Full Time RV. We're on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Very, very small on YouTube, but we're still there. And then we do kind of like DIY, homeschooling, just random adventures on there.
That's awesome. And she's been a big part of our Learn to RV Summer Scavenger Hunt. In fact, all of the ladies here have been participating this year. And so that's been a lot of fun to have all of you with all your people participating in that. So thank you. That one wraps up. By the time you listen to this episode, that'll be in the history folder. But it was a great month. And so if you're waiting, we are thinking about maybe rolling out one. There might be a hidden caption if you're watching this on YouTube. There might be a hint in Ashley's frame the next time of year we will do an online scavenger hunt. So you got to watch the YouTube version. Kristina, how about you? How do they find you?
So we are Travel with the Brams across socials. We're on all the things. We just share content about our family. We're super inconsistent, so we didn't die if we didn't post. We are still there chugging along.
I love that. She's also connect at learn2rv.com. So if you need to get a hold of Learn to RV for any reason whatsoever, you will probably be talking to Kristina at the other end of the line for now. As we grow, I'm sure she's going to be ready and willing to hand that connect button off to somebody, but who knows? She may hang on to it for good measure. Okay, Rhea, how about you? Where are you and how do we find you on socials?
Yeah, we're the Wandering Rocks family, and we're on Facebook, Instagram, and we've newly launched on YouTube. So you can find us on those three as the Wandering Rocks family. And you may have seen us. We have a big green truck, and this is the inside of said truck. And yeah.
And you guys, her truck has eyes. Like if you're walking by her truck in the campground, it's going to watch you walk by. It's so cool, unless you're creeped out by that. But I thought it was fun. All right. Well, I'm going to close out with this. There's no bell schedule out here, no hallway passes. no right way to raise a kid. Like Kristina said, who knows how to think, how to work, and how to love people well. Littles, middles, high schoolers, wherever your family is right now, you're not behind. You're just on a different road, and that's okay. So thank you, ladies, for joining us on this Learn to RV, the podcast. To everyone listening, if you're out there and you're going, I don't know where to connect, there's a couple ways you can do that without having a membership to something. Roadschooling Resources is a free group within Learn to RV. Anybody can join. You do have to answer the membership questions and agree to the group rules because there's people with children in there, and I take that very seriously. But you might find that you're right down the road from somebody else in that group. And so you're welcome to connect in there and organize meetups and hang out. If you like Learn to RV, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the like and share button. You can find us on YouTube, all the socials, Instagram, all the things. And if you like something or you have a road schooling idea that you want to come on the podcast, make sure to reach out to Kristina at connect@learntorv.com. Until next time, keep the wheels turning. We'll see you soon.